you don't own Hartman.
I know, Xander family, or,
He's
you
going
know,
to,
on Joe Smith.
he rents it out on the weekend.
He didn't actually build that tree, did he?
Well, no, he took the trees out, and it's on the huge box, it's like on 27 logs.
How high is that, like 20-some feet?
There's 20-some feet.
Lives in Los
He was decorating, I got there, it was lights, they were decorating Christmas tree, it's really nice.
That means
Really
not only that you, but your guests. Public salesman. Newspaper.
We're talking trees, that drug
She must be on with administrative.
Yeah, it is, it's on, yeah, right at the end.
That's true, yeah, salesman, anybody, Joe Blow.
Newspaper guy.
I'd like to call a meeting of Morrison County Board to order. Please stand for the pledge if you're able. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to the county board meeting.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
All right, approval of county board minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Any additions or deletions to the agenda this morning, Nicole?
There are none.
We have a motion
So moved.
Second.
and a second. All right, further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Social services report. Morning, Brad.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Brad. I am here today to request approval of a contract for our social welfare fund and our agency collection system. This is an annual contract that the board signs off on. There is a reduction this year, however, don't get too excited about it because I think on the other side, in Deb's department, Deb Lau's department, I think the price is going up, so. So I'm just looking for approval of this contract and board chair signature along with County Attorney Middendorf, and he has reviewed the contract as to the form and content.
All right,
Mr. Chair,
Gentlemen?
so moved.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. That's really all I had, except for one just comment, and that is that Subway and the Subway and Coburn's again worked on a coat drive. And so we do have some coats down in our lobby area or in the hallway. They did a very nice job again in terms of collecting coats, cleaning coats, and having them available for individuals to come and pick up. So there was a very large crate of coats that were donated. So very appreciative to Subway and Coburn's for doing that. And also the Piers Area Coalition, the EPIC group, is bringing coats every Wednesday as well to put on the rack. So they're working on a class project with that. So it's very nice to see, and now that it snows here, we can use those winter coats, so. Good stuff, yeah, no, Jack and over at Coburn's, they do such a good job with this, and they're both such good and important community members. So, yes, very good, so. So that's all I had.
Okay, very good.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Brad.
Enjoy the day.
Public health report. Morning, Katie. Morning, Louise.
Morning.
Good morning, Katie, good morning, Louise.
With Wonderland. All right. So again, this is Louise Welly, our current nurse supervisor. For any that may not know who she is. So we're here today to talk about quality improvement a little bit. Quality improvement for public health and in general is really a process that focuses on activities that help improve effectiveness and efficiency in an agency. If you look on the handout that goes along with RBA, you'll see two graphs that show the two of our major programs in public health. Parent and child health is otherwise known as our maternal child health area, and then our case management, which is our senior case management. If you look at these graphs, you can see that for the past few years, the red line is our expenses and the blue line would be our revenues, and our revenues haven't quite been meeting our expenses. So we sat down, for the last few months we've been discussing this as our management team in public health and brainstorming what what we can do to turn this around, because this situation is not okay. And what we came up with is, to be a good framework, or a good process to turn this situation around would be commitment to quality improvement. If you look at the orange box next to the graphs, you'll see some of the responsibilities that a person who would fulfill or be doing quality improvement would be doing. They'd be working with our regulations and policies to make sure they're up to date. They would be working with our state and federal audits and making sure that we're being compliant with everything we need to. And they would also be working in general on our processes for all of our programs in public health. At the bottom of this sheet, if you could just scroll down a little bit. So what we're here today is requesting to create a position of a quality improvement public health nurse. This position will not actually increase the number of positions we have in public health. It'll just take one of our current public health nurse positions and increase the responsibilities. So as we were going through this process, Louise Welly, our nurse supervisor, who's been here for almost 30 years and has a lot of knowledge and experience, had expressed some interest in this type of work. She has a lot of strengths in strategic thinking and around the processes, and she has a lot of knowledge of what goes on in the public health department. And she had expressed kind of interest in this idea of quality improvement. And if you do want to add anything?
Well, this position really looks like Katie said, plays to my strengths, things that I'm passionate about, that I really dig into the data and what does the data tell us, what can we do with it to improve our processes, that type of thing. Very, very much interested in the advancing technology and how we can use that to our advantage to go forward and be more efficient and help staff, know their job, their processes, and in the end result, be very much satisfied with the work they're doing. And
we kind of went through a little dry run in this idea of quality improvement, and I think I'll let Louise talk about that a little bit. We did a little quality improvement project with the time that we could kind of muster up.
Yeah, so we worked with the case management staff in really streamlining how they report their daily work. And because all of those daily reports really pulls into what we end up billing for revenues and that type of thing. And so by making it more standard, more consistent, we're already starting to see some of those results. And the staff has really expressed that this has been a very good process for them that we went through, and it's an ongoing thing. So we'll continue to evaluate, tweak it, as we go along, and continue to improve on it.
In our preliminary evaluation, what we're finding is that we're able to capture our revenues better. And so we think with more projects like this where we can look at our processes and see where our staff can be more efficient, how we can capture revenues better. And there's also that piece of having quality around the services that we offer. And it's really up to management to make sure that the processes are in place for our staff so they can deliver these quality services that we do and want to continue to offer the residents in Morrison County.
And Mr. Chair, if I could
Yes,
add,
Deb.
the case management component isn't something we have to do. We do that because it's a revenue generator. But as you can see, something needs to change in terms of ensuring that it is a revenue generator. And that's what Katie has looked at since, the outset, and with Louise's help, looked at what can we do to turn this around. And we've talked a little bit about how the financial picture in public health really needs some tweaking. And this is one of those areas, one of the major areas that needs some tweaking. We need to capture revenue to cover our expenses, or we really shouldn't be doing this. We see the value of doing it, we want to continue doing it, but it ought to cover, the revenue ought to cover the expenses. And so efforts put forward towards that are important. And it's been something I certainly have stressed with Katie, and I think as a result of what you expect and ought to expect again in this organization, which is we should be getting the revenue that we can to offset where we can offset, and this is one of those areas that we should expect that. So initial idea or concept is recognizing that and then really taking steps to what can we do to help improve that. And that's where Katie's really tapped into Louise's experience, really looked at where we're at and what we need to do to move forward and put in place a plan to get there. So that's what this is about, and we've talked about this last number of months, and Louise has been instrumental in helping get there and will continue to get there. So that's what this is about.
All
And
right. Okay.
at the bottom, you can see, so initially, in the first year, which technically, we're almost in 2016, the impact of, so moving Louise, who's the current nurse supervisor, to this quality improvement nurse position, and then we would look to fill the nurse supervisor position internally with a nurse internally, would be about a $15,000 savings in our staff projections that you've already seen in the budget. And then ongoing after that, we are projecting that this position will pay for itself in all the, and the increased efficiencies that we're hopeful that we'll see as a result of a commitment to quality improvement.
Questions, gentlemen, comments?
Sounds good.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Zelinski.
I would just like to ask Katie and Louise both, and I realize neither one of you have got a crystal ball. I'm very clear on that. I just want to know, it's your belief that to change this management structure, and that's the way that I'm looking at it, and that's a change in management structure, that we truly can bring both of your graphs, top one and the bottom one, we can bring the blue line and the red line, at the very least, closer together.
Absolutely.
That, and
Yes,
that is your
very-
belief.
Very much so, very believe that.
Well, and Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
Commissioner Winter.
But the point, look at those graphs, you have to do something, it looks like, because what
Absolutely.
happens if you don't, are they gonna keep that, gonna get wider and wider? And so I commend staff for looking at and seeing this and trying to improve upon it.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Commissioner Winter, it's not so much even wider and wider, it's, everything's going one direction, and that's down. And we need, I'm anticipating anyway, that we're bringing them up and we're bringing them together. That's the plan.
They need to be together.
And gentlemen, 3 years ago, when we got on board, the three of us commissioners, other than you two, Dwayne was already here, and Mike's most recent member, and we had concerns because public health had a sizable reserve, and it just kept dwindling. And now we're not meeting needs, and we saw that, and we have been concerned about that all along. So hopefully this will address that.
Yeah, one of our ultimate goals is to get that back. To get our reserves back, to do whatever we can to make sure we're providing the services that we need to provide and to get that fund balance back.
Have some buffer there.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Chair, with that, I would make a motion to approve that.
I have a motion on the floor, gentlemen,
Second.
and a second. Further discussion. Thanks for all the effort in addressing this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay,
Thank you, gentlemen.
thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
All
Have a good
right,
day.
planning and zoning. Good morning, Amy.
Morning.
Good morning, Miss Amy.
Good morning.
Morning, Amy.
I'll have you know my children are very angry with the Public Works Department today because they did such a good job on the roads that school was on time.
There you go.
So they have something to say.
Now, if you move to the Upsala Lawn Prairie District, they're 2
2
hours late.
Yes,
And Steve just can't win, can he?
No.
Someone's always upset.
yes.
All right.
All
Okay,
right.
welcome.
Well, I have 3 items for you today. The first one is to consider the interim use permit request for the Gertz Revocable Living Trust. This is to establish a retreat center. This was heard at the last Planning Commission meeting and was recommended for denial. And I do believe the Gertzes are here today.
Aubrey Marilyn, would you come up, please? Come on, Bob. Come on up. There's a chair for you here.
Good morning.
Come on.
Have a chair, yeah. Oh.
Morning.
So I believe all of you were at the planning commission
Randy
meeting
was
except for
in
Commissioner
Washington,
Winter.
weren't you?
I was in those Washington or Philadelphia?
Okay, so, like I said, the planning commission did recommend denial, so I don't have any proposed conditions for you. However, they did vote on that denial with some conditions in mind. If you'd like me to go over those, I can. Would you like?
Would you
Yeah.
please?
Okay.
Would you please, yes.
So, let's see.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes,
could add,
Deb.
while you received all the information, if you could just kind of recap for Commissioner Wincher, where we're at and what's going on with the request, would that be helpful? That way we're all on the same page.
Sure. So I did capture that in the findings that are in your packet. So the Gertzes are proposing to operate a retreat center out of both of their parcels up on Lake Alexander. One is a riparian lot, one is a non-riparian lot, but they are contiguous to each other. Cove Road, which is a private and privately maintained road, runs in between their two parcels, and that is how they get to the two parcels. So the concerns that were brought forward during the hearing were mainly centered around the road and how narrow that road is, and the kind of the quiet nature of the property and what a retreat center how that might change the locality.
If I may
Yes,
interrupt, the
Commissioner
distance
Winter.
of the road, what is that? Like, is it?
The width?
No, the distance, when
The
you say
length.
the length, like, how long is this
From-
road? Like half a mile,
Oh.
mile?
That,
Is it a quarter?
would you be able to answer that better than I could?
600 plus 100 plus 100 plus 300.
So we're at 1,100 feet?
Thank
I
you.
guess.
Of course, less than a
Just
quarter
a
mile.
guess.
Okay.
2.5 miles.
The non-riparian lot is kind of sandwiched between Cove Road and a county road. And the county road is 60th Avenue. But they don't access off of 60th Avenue. So with that input from the public and comments that were received in conversation, the Planning Commission kept 4 conditions in mind as they were voting. And the conditions were: the property owner must install an access off of 60th Avenue, and retreat attendees shall only access the property off 60th Avenue. 2, 4 retreats may be held per year, each up to 3 days and 3 nights in duration. 3, the interim use permit shall terminate on December 1, 2020, or when there is a change in ownership, whichever comes first. And 4, abide by all applicable state and local laws in regards to retreat centers, waste disposal, and overnight accommodations. So those were the 4 conditions that they were keeping in mind as they were voting. But they did answer 2 of the questions in the no, and so therefore recommended denial.
And if I may,
Yes,
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner.
as the applicants, are you able or not able to conform with these additions that they put on there? Is that why, like the widening of the road, is that something that you could do?
A new road.
A new road, yeah.
Well, we could do that, that's a possibility. Steve Bukowski was here, I think that's who that is.
yes.
And he said that the county would allow for us to do that and to put a road off of 60th. But our belief is that's just one of the most prettiest places in the county is the Tunnel of Pines. And a lot of people know that area, come there and take their wedding pictures. Motorcycle groups drive through there, lots of people, if you ask them, they know where that area is. And we just would never put a road off of 60th. We just would not want to cut down those beautiful trees that have
I
been
mean,
there.
taking all these big, and it says deciduous trees and they're
I've
coniferous
driven
trees.
through it with
Yeah,
Morrison.
they're white pine and Norway pine,
Beautiful.
red pine, so, and they're beautiful, so cutting a big swath through there would be, I mean, doing more damage, I think, so, or to the aesthetics, very much so.
And the easier one, 4 retreats may be held per year. Why was that condition put on there?
Mr. Chair, the applicant had, within their application materials, had indicated they would be having 4 to 6 retreats per year. So with some discussion, the planning commission decided to limit that to 4 retreats per year.
Possible?
To have 4 years,
Right.
sure.
Okay, another one question is, I don't see this too often where they have a deadline on the termination. Normally it just stays with it until they sell or whatever. Why the end date on this one?
Mr. Chair, I'll remind you that with an interim use permit, you have to have an end date. Yes, in the other interim use permits you've given or granted, you haven't put a date, you've put more of like an event for that. However, the Gertzes had talked about they were wanting to do this for about 10 years. The original was 2025. That would have been 10 years from now. The Planning Commission was not comfortable with that, and so they lowered it to 2020.
Thank you.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair,
Wilson?
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm trying to comprehend how if we have 4 events with 4 people there at each event, we're talking 16 people a year coming to this property, and no boats on the lake not being used for people doing art, when my understanding is you could rent out your property every week for 52 weeks a year. I just don't understand why I would deny this. I mean, it just, and without building a new road. You know, I would like to see us putting something on where maybe you, if I would approve this, you come back in 3 to 4 years and we talk about if there's been issues, if there's things that, and come back to the board and not have to pay the $500 again because it's a request that I would have. Because if I can't approve this, what can I approve on a lake? I mean, I would say that people have more visitors in their own family come to a lake than what this here provides. And that's what I've struggled with, so. Brian's
Commissioner
got
Just
Johnson?
a point of
Brian's got
clarification.
something.
Yes,
I don't think
yes.
there is a 4-person limit.
No.
I think the applicants are talking up to 12 per,
Right,
Can
but
accommodate
Can
12,
accommodate up to
not likely, but can accommodate. We want to have a top end.
Jim?
Correct, but if I'm not mistaken, wasn't one of the restrictions 4 people?
I think it was 6 at one point, or 10
Six.
or
Okay,
something.
well,
You can certainly
whatever,
add that as a
Yeah.
condition.
I could compromise on something, but I'm just trying to think, if I don't allow this to be on a lake, where people want to come and do artwork and not use the lake, then what can I approve on a lake? I mean, it just, that's kind of where I'm at on this, so.
can I just say one thing?
Just, Marilyn, just a second. Commissioner Johnson has requested to speak, and then you'll be next. Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
And you were gonna do during the week, right?
Yes.
You asked for these during the week, so yeah, I'm with Commissioner Wilson. I don't really have a problem with it. You know, people can have company on weekends, and I don't think this is asking too much, so.
Commissioner, okay, Marilyn, no.
No, I was just gonna say that artists, when they're a teacher and they're offering a class, they charge between $500 and $700 a day. So in order for it to not be too expensive for the participants, I would say that 6 would be the average that would be there. Otherwise, it gets to be too much money for anybody to come.
Sure.
Commissioner Jelinski,
Mr. Chair,
yes?
Amy, I just want to be extremely clear on something, and I think everybody needs to be extremely clear on this. If the Gertzes truly wanted to rent out their cabins, lakeside or the other side, or both, truly, once a month for an entire year, is there any ordinance on the books that says they cannot do that?
We do not regulate that use.
So if I am a art instructor, just talking out loud, if I'm an art instructor and I see that they've got a cabin or 2 for rent, is there anything stopping me from renting either one of those cabins?
As an individual, no.
Okay, when I'm an individual and I rented it, I'm also an art instructor, and I've got some close personal friends that are also artists. I'm just talking out loud, I'm just asking the question. And I invite them up for a couple days, whether that couple days is 7 days, because that's what I'm renting the cabin for, or if that is 3 days that I'm inviting them up for. Can I do that?
Yes.
While they are there, can any of those guests of mine paint?
Because we don't regulate that, we would not regulate what their activities are during that time.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I just want to
Yes.
clarify, so they're proposing to utilize both cabins. Each cabin can accommodate up to 6 people. So that's where the 12 people at a time came in, 6 people in each cabin, just to clarify.
Mr. Chair, would you
Commissioner
be
Winchell.
opposed if we would put something in there stating that you couldn't have it on the weekend?
It's your deal, I mean, it's.
Well, I was asking you. I'm
You're the
asking you.
commissioner.
You're the-
To be honest, I didn't begin painting until I retired because most of the workshops are during the week. They aren't on the weekend, so that's a possibility depending on the instructor's schedule.
And Mr. Chair, again,
Yes.
going through these emails, the biggest one is obviously the road. That's what I see from people emailing in, that the safety and everything on that. Strangers coming in, that's iffy to me. You got strangers. I'm driving through all the time. I guess to the county commissioners, the road is the big issue. And again, it's such a narrow road, not too many people drive too fast, and I'm kind of on Mr. Wilson's side here. I just don't see, again, maybe we can put some restrictions on the time or whatever, but yeah, painting, I don't think you're gonna get too many strange people that are gonna come in and try to do things painting. Again, I could be wrong, but that's what I have to say.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
One of the other things, and I just wanted to bring to your attention, Commissioner Winter, since you weren't there and may want to consider it as a condition, is that the Gertzes said that while these retreats are happening, one or both of them will be staying on site. You could certainly make that a condition, that when they are holding retreats, that one or both of them be staying on site.
One of the two, that's what you mean by them, one of them two present.
Correct.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Zelinski.
I believe condition one, or question 1 and question 4, as I recall, were voted no.
That's correct.
I wonder if you could please review
Yes.
to us what those questions would be, and maybe if there was a reason why the answer was no,
Yes, so the.
if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So question 1 is the requested use will not create an unreasonably excessive burden on the existing parks, schools, public roads, or other utilities which serve or are proposed to serve the area. The Planning Commission voted no on that, and their reasoning for that was this is a quiet, pristine area with a lot of pedestrian traffic and a narrow private road that serves the neighborhood. Additional traffic would overburden the area. And then question number 4 is the requested use, in the opinion of the Planning Commission, is reasonably related to the existing land use and environment. Again, the Planning Commission answered no to that question, and the reason they gave was this is a uniquely pristine locality. This use may be a fit for the zoning district overall, but it is not appropriate in this particular location given the narrow privately maintained road that services this quiet area.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner
I think
Wilson.
one of the questions on that road deal that they were having a difficult with was the word public. This is kind of a private road, and so that's where some of their difficulty was in answering that question, I feel anyway.
Commissioner Zelinski.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would ask the county attorney, who happens to be here today, who's here most county.
Thank you for clarifying that, Commissioner. Thank you for clarifying that, Commissioner.
If you could explain to me, to the board, perhaps to the audience, private road, I understand what private road, I got that. A private road, I gotta be honest with you folks, I drove up to Cove Road last Friday, I believe. And I drove on Cove Road. Just heard it's a private road. private to me is private. Can I drive on a private road?
Right, it's something of a misnomer when you call it a private road because it is accessible by the public. It's my understanding from the legal description of the Gertz's property that they do have an easement to use that road, and that means not only them, but their guests. So certainly, people that they invite can come in and use the road, and in fact, members of the public can too. They can have people come into their property to repair it, to deliver newspapers.
To go look at it if we're county commissioners?
Well, I just want to be
Right,
clear on that.
so-
Yeah, I did too. I was out there Saturday.
Was I breaking any kind
No,
of anything?
no.
I drove on your property.
No. So,
You're welcome. I mean, I wasn't, I just did.
it's open for use by the public is the bottom line, even though it's privately maintained.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions, Commissioners? Commissioner
yeah.
Johnson?
And I went out Friday afternoon and looked at it too, and the long driveway to the one towards the road, I mean, there's a long driveway for parking, and so I don't have any problem.
Other comments or questions, gentlemen? So, do I have a motion to deny or approve the request with, if any, conditions that the board would so wish?
Mr. Chair,
No, you go ahead.
again, to make a motion, before we do that, I guess I would like to add the condition of no weekends and the condition of them having to be present, one or the other, at all time of the two that I see. Open for discussion, yes, no?
Yes, gentlemen?
I guess another one I had was four people in each cabin.
So
maximum.
8 total?
In each,
Right.
so that'd be 8 people
Right,
maximum.
that's what I'm saying.
Mr. Chair,
Understood.
one suggestion
Okay,
is,
yep, please help me.
both of the cabins can accommodate 6. The non-riparian piece, which is farther away from the lake, set back farther on a larger lot, could accommodate 6 people. Would you not want 6 people in that cabin when it could accommodate instead of spilling them over to the riparian lot?
First of all, will you explain to me what riparian lot means?
Yeah, riparian,
Because I
riparian,
don't
riparian. That's the one on the lake.
Okay,
Non-riparian, it's not on the lake. It does not have frontage on the lake.
okay. I guess that what I'm thinking is that there not be more than 8 people invited out there at one time. So I was thinking 4 and 4, I guess I don't care how that is, but no more than 8 people to kind of help with the traffic and help with all the stuff. I agree with Randy that I think during the week should be so that the weekend traffic isn't affecting the other people that are there. And that one of the Gertzes be there when they're having an event. I don't know, I can't think of anything else if you guys have something.
Yeah.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, Mr. Chair, one question I have, if we do it with no weekends, could you get by?
There's a possibility that people would want to paint on the weekend, so I guess I would prefer to have that open,
Yeah,
but.
I'm just kinda,
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
a suggestion. Would weekend use of the retreat center be as big of a deal during kind of the off-lake season as it would be in the summertime? Just a
And
thought.
Mr. Chair, also
Yeah.
defining weekend. Everybody
Right.
looks at weekend a little different.
right.
I look at weekend
Yeah.
in the lake country where our cabin is on Friday at 3 o'clock until about Sunday at noon. But everybody understands that differently in terms of the whole day Saturday, the whole day Sunday. How do you define weekend? And maybe it would be a good idea to define that if you so
June,
choose.
July, and August, I mean, you're saying,
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner
How
Wilson?
about if I would define that not during the major, like Memorial Day, 4th of July,
Sure.
those major weekends when
Major
other people,
weekends. Okay.
when other people have
No, I would come anyway.
people up
Okay.
there.
okay.
Also, what about the timeline? I mean, my own personal thing is, I wouldn't mind doing this for 2 or 3 years and then you come back to us with the report, and if there's issues that we've had, then we deal with them at that time. Is that possible, Amy? And not to charge them for the variance board to come back to us, or how does that work?
Well, Commissioner Wilson, let me add something, may I, at this time, because I think it goes right along with what you're saying. At that time, the public can weigh in on any concerns that are had, but also at that time, I think Marilyn and Bob can weigh in on whether things are going great and to request to increase it or whatever. I mean, it gives everybody an opportunity to really look at this and see how things are going, okay? Commissioner Jelinski?
Mr. Chair, I think that I need to speak on that, is that we should wait 2 years or 3 years if there's something that's going haywire. Should this get passed today, and there's something that isn't making the grade this year, isn't making the grade next year, we should wait 3 years before Bob and Marilyn come back here? I disagree. I would anticipate it's at that time, planning and zoning is gonna get a complaint, and we're gonna have to deal with that issue at that point in time.
However, that's an ongoing deal, right?
That's, yeah.
I mean, so
exactly, yeah.
that happens as a part of an interim use permit, correct?
Absolutely.
So-
But,
so-
Mr. Chair, what I just heard, just so we're on the right page, if there's something wrong that 3 years from now, Bob and Marilyn can address it. No, if there's something wrong tomorrow, Bob and Marilyn can address it tomorrow.
I guess
Is that not?
I guess what I was suggesting is that in 3 years, we take a look at the whole thing, that what we did.
I have no issue with that.
To make sure that we're benefiting both the public that lives there and the Gertzes.
That I have no issue with.
That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know if I'm
Mr.
saying
Chair,
it.
Yes,
but-
Commissioner
my
Wilson.
suggestion would be, again, what Deb, she had a good point, put the Saturday, Sunday as a weekend. I mean, so if somebody wants to be there till Friday midnight, but I would like to see it from June 1st to September 1st where, and if they want, for that weekends only, after that, you know, I just think, because for the summer, whether it's a holiday, you know, we're getting too specific, my opinion, you know, so it's hard to police it this way. Those 3 months, which is the lakes are used mostly, and again, I think if I'm a painter, there's really not much, you'd rather paint in the fall or the spring or.
Well, even in the summer, but if you've got lots of activity as
Right.
well, you're not there to, you know what I mean, to be amongst all of that, you know. Does that make sense? So you're
what
looking
did
at,
you just say?
So what I'm saying is I would like to put the restriction on, no weekends, which clarify Saturday and Sunday as a weekend, okay? From June 1st to September 1st. So then after that, if they want to use weekends, they can, you know what I'm saying? Because that's probably when you'd have the heaviest boat traffic in those 3 months.
gentlemen, further discussion?
When you're saying boat traffic, the point is they have no boats out there. These
No.
people are not using any
I
water.
understand that, but they're
Okay.
talking about more people coming in the summer, whether it's cabins, tourists, people drive, motorcyclists, everybody uses those, mostly that road in those 3 months out of the year, and when they use it on the weekends. So that's why I would like to see that.
Is that okay with the two of you? Or
It's okay with me.
Marilyn?
Marilyn?
For the most point, I think that would work out, although, again, it depends on, you know, the instructors and when they're available.
I think, Mr. Wilson,
How about if we allow them 2 weekends in that time period? From when you said to restrict the weekends from June to September, how about if there was 2 weekends allowed in that time period? So if there happened to be an event, that way we're not doing it every weekend.
Possible.
And because they were only looking for 4 times before period for the whole year. So if we restricted it to 2 weekends between June and September, like you said, and then if they come after
As a
that,
compromise.
that way it compromises for you if you got some job that needs to be on a weekend.
So would they be required, Mr. Chair, to say, okay, to you, we're gonna be using this weekend? Is that how it works, or?
Mr. Chair, what I would suggest is that they submit a schedule
Okay.
of when those events are occurring, especially if you're gonna cap out the number of events that they're going to have per year, that they just submit a schedule to the planning and zoning office, so we know when those are occurring.
and gentlemen, since you also suggested someone that we not have any major holiday weekends during that time frame, I just want to clarify, okay? if those 2 weekends that occur between June 1st and September 1st can or cannot happen on a holiday. I just want to be sure, because we have two different.
I would like to say no,
Okay.
because that's when other people have a lot of people around.
Okay.
And I'm trying to compromise here with
Well,
both sides.
The road to me is the issue.
Right. Commissioner Jelinski?
Mr. Chair, I have to ask Bob Maryland another question.
Yes.
I'm a painter. I'm not, but I'm just gonna pretend, so point at me, I'm the painter. Where am I gonna paint? I guess that's one piece to this puzzle that I haven't quite made out yet. I was actually physically on your property. Would I take out my three-legged thing?
Easel.
And easel, and would I paint your garage
we
that you
ha-
have there?
Yes, we have completed our garage, so it's totally winterized, looks just like a room in your house. That is where most of the painting would take place. They could move the furniture aside in the buildings and paint in the cabins if they wished, and a lot of people like to paint outside, so it's called plein air painting. So they could paint out in our yard in the back. So, but most of the painting would take place in our garage, which we have changed to a studio.
Okay, so I just heard you.
Yep.
You're not going to park me at the end of your property on 60th Avenue. You're not gonna park me on the end of your driveway on Cove Road and set up my easel and
No,
paint the neighborhood. That's not the
No.
idea.
no.
Okay.
I have to agree with, excuse me. I
Yes,
have to agree
Commissioner
with-
Wilson.
I have to agree with Jeff. I was wondering, I'm thinking that you're standing on a bluff or something, you're looking at something and you're painting it, but that's not necessarily how
No, when you
that
have an
goes.
instructor, you usually go step by step, and they'll do something, and then they'll paint the sky, and then everybody will paint the sky. So you're
Okay.
usually in an indoor situation,
Because there was a
off
lady.
of a photo.
There was a lady last week that made a comment about walking on her beach and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to walk out there and to start painting and paint her house or something, but that's not what would happen.
No.
Somebody else's property, I don't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
We would
wanna
not go on
get
other
on
people's
that
property.
in any way.
Okay.
Okay.
A lot of docks along there.
Yeah, they'd have to
So-
climb a few docks.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say that this is also a family cabin, so we will be using it as a family on holidays and most weekends, so. it's-
Gentlemen, I have a question. You talked about 4 times total, and you're gonna allow 2 within that time frame. And I'm just wondering if we're reasonable to look at 4 times throughout the other part of the year. Just if,
You talking, Mr. Chair, the weekends you're talking? or-
well, no, just throughout the rest of the time of the year.
Four times.
So 2 during the
total.
time frame, 4, so 6
Yeah.
times total. I mean, once every 2 months,
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah,
I'm not,
no problem with that.
They're gonna paint inside that garage. They're not gonna go outside and paint the world. They're painting inside that garage,
No, they-
inside the cabin, but that's where they're gonna be painting.
They can paint anywhere on our property. That's what I have.
But most of the time,
Anticipated.
they will be
With the instructor.
indoors with the instructor.
Okay, so I can also come out of your garage, out of your cabin, set up my three-legged easel, and I can
They can paint our woods.
paint, okay.
or sit on the dock and
Right.
paint the islands out on the lake.
Yeah.
You know what I'm,
Mr. Chair, another, if I want to paint, can I just come out there anytime and paint on your land or whatever? That's what, that's kind of what I was looking at. That's not it. This is it's a classroom.
Yes.
You come in
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
you have an instructor teaching you how to use the brush or they even set up an easel. That's where
Right.
you start step by step. It's
Right.
not coming out there to paint.
It's more structured,
Right.
I
Very
guess, than
structured.
that. It's more of an event as opposed to a.
any other
Free-for-all
questions, gentlemen?
painting.
Any other issues you would like to cover?
Amy, did you
Yes.
write down what you think
Yes.
we might have for restrictions?
Well, and I'd like to revisit one thing before I
Okay.
go over what I've got for conditions. And that is, if you're going to say this, you have to identify an end date. And by law, that you're identifying when the interim use permit will terminate. So whatever date you give, it terminates, and they will have to come in and ask for it again, but you can certainly review the last 3 years or 2 years or whatever you put on there. If you choose at that time to waive the fee, I don't know that that's something we can do within a condition here, but when that time comes, they certainly can petition the board at that time to waive the fee and give the reasons why they should be waiving the fee to revisit that. But that is the spirit of an interim use permit, is that it is not, that's why it's not a conditional use permit. They're not meant to run with the land like an IUP or like a CUP.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Mr. Chair, and the key word there is terminate.
Correct.
And I don't know that I understood that properly. I know that, but I don't know that I understood that properly. So going back to we should have Bob and Marilyn come back to visit with the board in 2 years or 4 years prior to any termination, just to give an update. That's kind of what we were talking about, or am I wrong? We're just talking.
Well,
Because I think that's one of the things you wrote down.
And Mr. Chair, you really, if they have an IUP and you have that, you don't have the ability to change the conditions
No.
of a current IUP. So really, it has to terminate. They would ask for renewal of it.
Yeah.
And then that's where you have that public hearing and you reset anything that needs to be reset.
Okay, so Commissioner Wilson, you were wanting to speak.
well, in other words, if we gave them 10 years, that's when it's done.
Correct,
If we gave them 3 years, that's done too.
correct.
I would still like the 3 years and then come back, but I also would like them to request that we waive the fee at that time if they want to. Because I want to make sure that this isn't causing the other people on the Lake any issues. And I want you to be able to try to do this because it sounds very innocent to me. And, but I think that way, if there is an issue, we can address it at that time or deny things.
Yeah, for 3 years, you're saying.
And if it was gonna be where we needed to charge you again for this, then I'd go out the 5 to 7 year deal, but, because I'm asking you to come back.
I gotta make the comment, Commissioner Wilson. Should we do it in 1 year? Because we may not all be here. No.
And Mr. Chair, that's what I was gonna say.
See, that's what-
To condition something that, or to rely on or give applicants the impression that a future board might make a decision a certain way, which is
waive a
waiving a
fee.
fee for a process
Oh,
that
that's
it
why I
wouldn't be,
said that.
it wouldn't be
Okay.
precedent to waive a fee
I
for
never
something
thought of
that is what happens. When a permit expires and you have to apply again, you go through a process. I don't think that we in good conscience could say that that's an appropriate action to waive a fee for that, because that's what the process is there.
Or whether the county
So-
should bear the expense
Exactly.
of that, just because you put a 3-year time limit.
So if there's something you want addressed, my recommendation, and I guess Brian can weigh in and Amy too, would be to address it now. And then you go with it. It isn't as if we we have many conditional use permits or interim use permits that we give for a plethora of reasons, and we have one opportunity to address that. You hope you're doing it the best you can, but, when there are additional issues that happen to come up, it's usually about a violation that may occur, a complaint that came in, and then we address them in that process, but just throwing that out there.
I do understand that. That makes sense. So then I guess I would ask for 5 years, that this
And
be
Mr.
a
Chair.
5-year deadline.
The reason why this is an IUP, interim use permit, is so you have a little bit more ability to revisit these so it's not just a land right that's given that is forever there. That's why this is an IUP. That gives you the ability to revisit this in 2-3 years if you're not comfortable with a 10, 20-year permit.
And let me kind of chime in now. This board here recently, meaning about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, went to some training on interim use permits to learn about that, because conditional use permits run with the land. If the next buyer buys it and they start using that the way they were, or in some difference, that has to be, it doesn't necessarily follow their idea of how that was, but it stays on the land forever. So that's why we had Amy investigate this, and we went to this training to really make this an option, that we have some control as far as time frame, and it's a very, very, very important part of Amy's toolbox as far, in these situations.
And that's a good point,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, but the way, I like the way the planning commission set it up, it says the interim use permit shall terminate on December 1st, 2020, or, and this is the keys, when there's a change in ownership, and that's where it comes to play, if they were to sell it where a regular CUP stays with it, this one is done right away, yeah, so.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Zelinski.
that's the purpose of all the conditions that are put on this then. If those conditions are being violated, the permit is being violated. The permit then is pulled, is that not?
Mr.
Or can
Chair,
be pulled?
it's one of the solutions. Also, the retreat centers do have performance standards on top of any conditions you put on it. There are performance standards within the ordinance that they also must adhere to.
And if those
Then-
conditions are not being followed,
Yep, then that's a violation of their interim use permit.
then what happens?
And we first take an administrative approach to that and inform them of what it is they're in violation of and give them a time frame to correct that. If we can't compel compliance, then we schedule a hearing before the county board, and then the county board has a buffet of choices to get compliance.
So my question becomes, we're talking 5 years and the request was for 10 years? I mean, why would we, if all of these performance standards are in place, why would we only give it to them for 5 years? If there's a process by which it comes back before the board if they don't follow what they need to. I'm just.
I can't disagree with that statement.
I mean, there is a process and we know
And that
that.
was my point, why is there an end date with their recommendations? Normally, it just stays with them until they change the land, that was my question, see, so.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that was during the development review team meeting. We had that discussion. We always do with an IUP. We have that discussion with the applicant because we inform them that an end date or event will need to be a condition. And we have that discussion, and the Gertzes felt a 10-year permit was acceptable to them, and that was why that was brought forward as a recommendation.
Can I say something?
Yes, you may, Marilyn.
Bob and I are doing this mostly for a creative outlet for ourselves. So the people that are going to be making the money on this particular venture are the artists themselves. We will not charge that much for them to stay at our place. I mean, of course, there will be a charge, but to have us come in and renew it for $540 every, in a couple of years, we probably wouldn't make anything, but that's fine if that's what you choose.
Gentlemen?
Personally, I'd just take it out, the end date, I mean, because.
It's-
Well, you have.
We have
Well, we have to have a terminate.
Well, but terminate when it's,
2025.
or when there's a change of ownership, that's.
It'll never change. We've had it for 63 years.
We don't-
It's in our
Well,
family.
fine, we'll put one.
Here's my thing with that.
Yep, I think that 2025 was what they requested.
Yep.
No, that's what the planning commission suggested.
Okay.
Yeah, 2024.
All right, so
Amy, could you read, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
including the one for 2025? Gentlemen, is that your wishes?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Amy, would you read the conditions, please?
So what I have is one, retreats shall not be held on weekends, which are Saturday and Sunday, from June 1st to September 1st, except for 2 weekends, and they may not be on holiday weekends. 2, the owner must be present at all times during the retreat.
I know, Brian.
Brian?
That's
Brian has
a can of worms.
So a holiday weekend defined as they cannot occur over Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day?
That's-
Yep,
Yeah.
very good.
All right.
Because it could be a religious
Yes.
holiday or a,
Yeah.
okay.
I need to discuss the next one. No more than 8 people attending the retreat. So if we have Ms. Gertz and the instructor, that's 2 people right there. So do you want no more than 8 people paying people attending the workshop? Or
8 students.
8 students.
okay, so no more than 8 people attending the retreat excluding property owner and instructor? Okay. And then the interim use permit will terminate on December 1st, 2025. Or do you want the clause about the ownership? Okay, so then it would be,
Or when there is a change.
or
in
when there's a change in ownership,
when there's
whichever
a
comes
change in
first. Okay. That's all I have for conditions.
Okay.
Condition 4, how about abide by applicable state and laws in regards to retreat centers, waste disposal, and overnight accommodations?
Commissioner Wilson.
Oh, no.
Hey, Commissioner Johnson, I'm looking
Yeah.
at Dwayne and I'm thinking, Mike,
I lost track. No, are we gonna have them come back to the board in a year or two, or no? I mean, if there's complaints, Amy would get them and,
Let the process go.
right, okay, that's fine.
How about just
which one?
4 days or 4 times?
And the four, and do we say the 6 times a year?
Yep.
2 times during that time frame between
Yep.
the first and the first, and 4 at other times a year?
So up to 6 times per year with no more than 4 events during July 1 to
No,
September
two.
1?
2 during,
okay.
and not on the holidays, and then 4 at other times a year.
4 other what times?
Of them during June 1 and September 1. Okay,
Commissioner Wilson?
Just read that one to me again.
Just
okay.
Yeah, I heard that.
Retreats may be held up to 6 times per year with no more than 2 of them during the time frame of June 1 and September 1. And then you've got the other condition about the weekends and during
Not-
that time
Not the
frame.
holidays?
Correct. Do you want to limit the length of these?
That was my question.
Okay.
Could be 6
Like-
retreats lasting 30 days each.
You know, I
The
guess,
statement it was 4 days, 3 nights.
3 nights.
3 nights.
is
4
that,
days.
is that sufficient for what you're looking at?
For most workshops. Some may go 4 days, 5 days and 4 nights, but we can work with that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I
Commissioner
have a
Wilson.
question yet on this time. I thought it was 4 times from July to September, 2 being on weekends.
It was
And-
2 times from July, is what the proposal was 2
Right.
times during those 3 months,
Yep,
and none can be on those 3 holidays,
yep.
and then 4 times throughout the rest of the year, so 6 times total. Is what the,
Okay, just so I clarify, because I was
Okay.
thinking 4 in that time period with only 2 being on weekends, but
So I
just so we're
have.
under the same understanding.
I have no weekends, which we consider Saturday and Sunday, from June 1 to September 1, except that they can have, I'll reword
Yeah, 2
it, I know what you're
weekends during
saying,
that
but
time period, not
no
all.
weekend, Saturday and Sunday from June 1 to September 1, except that they can have 2 weekends during that time frame, and they cannot be on a holiday weekend. That's what I
They
have.
probably put like submit a schedule to you or something like that.
Yes, so submit schedule.
cannot be on these 3 holidays.
Schedule of
As
retreats.
soon as we know.
Yes, so then, what do you want for time frame? 3 nights, 4 days,
I don't know, how
4
does it
days,
work?
5?
How does that work? What best fits your,
Well, most of the workshops that I've gone to are 3 days. So, but they like to come the night before, so it would be 3 nights. If they, Monday,
3 days,
Tuesday.
3 nights?
3 days, 3 nights, but sometimes, some instructors like to go a 5-day week. So then they would come on a Sunday night and leave on a Friday morning.
is that a problem,
So-
gentlemen?
It just depends on the instructor and what he's teaching and how long it's gonna take and, you know.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner
I
Wilson.
guess I would like to see 4 days. So you described that, however, because before at the planning commission, it was like 3 days, 3 nights. So let's just say 4 days.
4
That
days.
kind of compromises that they're not there all week
Okay.
and gives you what you've asked for plus a little leeway room. So, and that way it helps the other people too, that there's not people there at a longer period of time.
So retreats may not exceed 4 days?
Or 24-hour periods that may spill
4
over
days, 4
into.
nights?
4 24-hour periods.
4 days, 4 nights.
4 days, 4 nights.
So 4 24-hour periods? Is that what we
Yep.
want?
Yep.
Okay. Okay,
Now,
Gentlemen, other questions?
I want to ask Amy a question. Amy, in part of this decision, when you say like renting out your place for for a week at a time, and there's no restrictions to that on anybody that wants to rent out their homes. So what makes them come here before us today? Just because it's kind of a legitimate business, and that's why they're here? Otherwise, how would we stop them from having, well, it would go under a business, I presume. That'd be the way we'd stop them if they weren't here.
Yep, the scope of what they're proposing is different. So if you're renting out your property to a single family that's utilizing the property in the same way, or, you know, a residential home is utilized, there is no change in use. So what we regulate is the use of the property. The use of the property doesn't change because you happen to have a different family there than you do the family that owns it. This crosses over into, we have, you know, we're gonna have advertised events, that this is a destination that is going to be, you know, where they're receiving instruction, they're receiving something. That's what makes that's what the difference is here.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner
The
Jelinski.
flip side still being, I can rent that property. I can be a painting instructor. And I can certainly invite 4 of my close personal friends, or 8 of my close personal friends, or 15 of my close personal friends up to visit me. And every one of us can grab a paintbrush and paint, just for the record.
If you rented it that way. If, however, you are an instructor and you say, hey, I'm doing a class at
Gotcha.
this,
But
that's completely
Charging
different.
for the class,
That's
but you still
completely
can.
different. Yes,
Yeah.
but as an
Gotcha.
individual, if my hobby is painting and I am having a weekend where I'm gonna invite all my painting friends and we're, no, that's not a, that's not a
all I-
violation.
okay. What I needed.
Gentlemen, any other conditions or questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to accept with those conditions.
I would second
I
that.
have a motion and a second on the floor. Further discussion? Having heard no further.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I'm
Commissioner
not sure that
Jelinski.
there is any further discussion, is there?
Well,
That I can think, that you can
I
think
hope
of,
not.
that any of us can think of?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I will abstain. And the reason for my abstention is Bob is my cousin. So and I don't know if we've ever done anything together. I actually knew your mom and dad a lot better than I know you, so.
Exactly.
And your great aunt Annie, so anyways.
Our grandmothers were sisters.
We're sisters, our grandmothers were sisters, but that being said, I have to abstain, so.
Good luck on your painting.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
You bet.
Thank
Thank you for your consideration.
Yes, have a great day.
Very good.
Thank you.
Do you want to take 5 minutes? Let's
I
take
think
5
we
minutes.
should.
Can we give you that thing back again?
Oh, yeah.
Assessor's report, are we done? No, you got one more thing. I apologize, Glenn, I'm jumping the gun here.
I apologize, Miss Ann.
I did, I
You
said I'm
stopped
sorry.
me mid-report.
I'm
and
sorry, let's go on.
He did.
I'm just sitting up here because I love it.
I acknowledge my imperfections, thank you.
We had a
Let's go
break
on.
in the middle of your report.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm like,
Sorry,
oh,
go on.
and thank you for allowing us to have that.
yes.
We were rude.
You're very welcome. The second item I have for you is to consider the interim use permit request from Michael Kalushi and Christy Long. This was to establish a shooting preserve. This is an after-the-fact interim use permit, so this is an established use already, and they were seeking the permit that they should have had to begin with. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this with 3 conditions. The first condition is the interim use permit shall terminate when neither of the current owners own the property. 2, property owner must be in compliance with all federal, state, and local regulations related to shooting preserves at all times. And 3, no lead shot may be used within the wetland areas of the property.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to accept that.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Further discussion, gentlemen. Commissioner Wincher.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is the one that has no timeline. See, though, there's a difference. We put a timeline on the Gertz's. This one has no timeline.
It does.
Yeah, it
It
does.
says the interim use permit shall, this is planning zone suggested. Where's the interim use permit shall terminate when the current owner, Mike Klushke, no longer owns the property. Doesn't say 2020, doesn't say 2020.
No, and it doesn't need to. It doesn't
It
need
says
to.
Mike, should it say Mike and his wife?
The,
I'm just
You're
curious.
not, I don't believe you're looking at the final conditions
Oh, I'm
that
sorry,
were,
I'm sorry, I'm
the
sorry.
final
Okay, okay.
condition read,
Okay.
the interim use permit shall terminate when neither of the current owners own the
Wonderful,
lot.
and I just, thank you,
Yes.
Amy, appreciate, I just,
Absolutely.
if he dies,
Yes.
whatever, go ahead, okay, I'm sorry. All right, Jen, we have a motion and a second on the floor.
And Mr. Chair, that's
Yes.
a date without a number.
Right.
Correct.
Right. So my question for you, Amy, is they talked about the lead shot and not being able to use it in wetland areas. How much wetland is there on the property?
A lot. A
Okay.
majority of the property is wetland areas. However, that isn't utilized very often because the conditions, it's hard to get through the wetland and everything. So that's not an area that is utilized a lot during the season. It's usually only like this time of year when it freezes and they can get in through there that
Yeah,
they
yeah,
utilize
yeah,
that area. But yes, there's a large portion of that property that is wetland. However, in the hearing, during the hearing, they talked about that area is not utilized a whole lot. So they always have encouraged the use
Steel shot?
of steel shot, but they're not required to prohibit lead shot, so they hadn't prohibited it. This would prohibit the use of that in the wetlands.
In the wetlands.
And they were very happy with that condition being put on because now it's not their problem. We're the blame, and they're okay with that.
Okay, and I'm just concerned about how do you determine the wetland, or you see what I'm saying, or shooting over the wetland, or I'm not saying no, I think it needs to be there, but I'm always concerned about using lead shot when there is waterfall.
Excuse me, I thought that the term that night was there would be no lead shot on the farm now.
Mr. Chair, that was discussed, but in the final stages of it, the condition got written just in the wetland areas that it was prohibited and not throughout the entire facility.
I took it just as we'd be glad not to have it at all, but,
Which, Mr. Chair, you can decide if that's what you're.
Which we can decide.
but they're not here to defend
not.
it.
Hey, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
that's gonna be a hard one to police. I mean, it's either gray or black or white. Right now, we have a gray.
Not really,
Why?
not really, because when they, see, it's their property, and when they have someone there, or someone comes to hunt, if that's a requirement that they use only steel shot,
But now it's not. It's, you can have lead shot.
that's exactly
my
what I'm
point.
saying,
It's
and
gray
that's
right
my
now.
concern.
It's
That's
a
my
gray area,
concern.
see, so I would just say let's no lead shot period and move on,
Yep, I would agree.
so they can advertise
Would
that.
you like to amend that to no lead shot may be used on the property?
My question.
they were here today.
Yeah, my question, Mr. Chair, we have another gun, facility, shooting facility, do they have that requirement in theirs?
I think we can clarify this. No lead shot used when hunting on the facility. Because there's target practice, there's skeet and clay pigeons, and there's all kinds of other places where lead shot is appropriate, but in hunting,
And Mr. Chair, I don't know that they don't offer any of those.
I don't think
It
they
is
This is a
solely
hunting
just
okay, then steel
Shooting
shot,
preserve.
I don't know why steel shot wouldn't be a problem, they just require it of their clients when they hunt there.
Yeah. But can we do that without them here?
It's my understanding that they don't have to agree to the conditions.
And what happens then?
It's just if they want the permit, then they need to abide by that.
Oh, okay.
And who decides if it's wetlands or not? That becomes a real issue. I mean, it really does. If you want to protect the wetland,
Yeah, I agree, that's why I said this is a very gray, condition if we leave it the way it is.
I'm just trying to think back that I just thought they were okay with having the lead shot or the steel shot,
Yeah.
period.
To be honest
I
with you, I
thought they
think
were
you're
too.
right.
I
I
thought they
just
were
think
too.
that's the way it was, that they said, because they made the comment that then we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
Now that you
yeah.
do this, we can just tell people that there's no,
The
You
county
come in
said.
onto our property and.
County said.
Yeah, and you think about it, guys. You think about how many acres do they have?
130.
130 acres isn't a big area. Now, I'm standing on 130 acres. I've got an 80 that's a half a mile long by a quarter wide, okay? You got 130 acres. How far is that shot gonna travel in each direction if I'm standing in one place? I mean, there's not a lot of areas. You're gonna be shooting over wetlands or towards wetland, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's not a lot of big area when you're talking the trajectory of the travel of pellets.
If this issue is important and we want to get it right,
Yes.
maybe we can continue it till the next board meeting, and we can contact the applicants and see if we can define this a little bit better.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
I don't think that would be an issue to wait, because they've been doing what they've been doing. Well, this is
an after the
This is
fact.
after the fact, but that might be a question that we should, because I feel.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, what if they say no?
Then they don't get their permit.
So then why, so then what's the big deal? We
Yeah.
Exactly.
What's
put
That's
the
what I was-
I mean,
conditions.
steel shot, lead shot, what,
Because I think, again, my opinion, most of us are gonna say they want steel shot, so if they want lead shot, they're not gonna get it anyway.
and lead shot's a lot healthier for eating the birds they're shooting as well, so whatever.
Lead shot?
I mean, steel shot, I apologize,
Yeah.
lead is not good.
It-
I'm sorry, Deb.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, wait a second.
if those are the terms under which you'll grant this, then those are the
After
terms
the
under
fact,
which you're going to
those are
grant
the
it.
terms.
Yeah.
I think,
I think so.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Wilson, I believe that you're right.
At the
Yeah.
meeting.
No more lead shot on this property.
That's
It's
what-
not
that's
our
what I
problem, it's the
interpret
You
SOP
took
of
care
the
of our
county.
problem.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm sure,
Okay.
that's what I
Put that
remember.
restriction in there and we'll
Okay.
pass it under that.
So,
Yep.
no lead shot may be used
Period.
on the property.
Period.
How about for hunting?
No.
No?
That is hunting. That's what they do there.
Mr. Chair, if they were offering something else, that would be beyond the scope of the permit that they've been granted, so they'd need to be amending their IUP if they wanted to offer all the other amenities and services for skeet or anything like that.
Gentlemen, I have a motion and a second on the floor, I believe, and we have a change to one of the conditions, along with the conditions. That's what's been proposed? All right. Further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. The last thing I have for you today is to consider the updated aquatic invasive species prevention plan. We did a visit about that, and you saw a draft of that at a planning session. Very minor changes, just some updates to the appendix, and then the addition of one goal that would open up the possibility of grant funding to the lake associations and lake improvement districts. So we are required to submit that to the Department of Natural Resources every year. They don't approve it, but we are required by law to provide it. So I need approval on that so I can send that
So moved.
out.
I have a motion on the floor to approve the updated aquatic invasive species.
Second.
plan. And a second. Further discussion? Amy, I'd like to thank you for all your hard work on that. I mean, I know a lot goes into these changes and trying to figure out a plan for possibly giving some grants and that kind of stuff, so appreciate that.
Thank you.
Further discussion? No, having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could
Yes.
too, I just want to thank Amy because she's helping out. We're doing that resource fair next week at the AMC conference, and she had a great idea to highlight the dirt meetings we do and some of the other processes that she's implemented in the office that really do help this land use process. And a good example was today, in which we had applications on something that was a little bit more vetted before they came in. The applicant kind of knew what could come up, how they should address it, had some questions answered before this process started. So I appreciate her volunteering to do that and working with me on that, so,
And when is that, Deb? Monday?
yes.
What time?
I
Think
think we
it's
talked
at
about
1.
1 to 2 or
1 to
something
2,
like
okay.
that. That's on the
Okay.
agenda.
Sure, and give us the right time, though.
Well, it's on the agenda. We'll get there, but yes, Monday, on Monday.
All right.
Amy, may I ask Amy, on the dirt meeting with the Gertzes?
Yes.
Was your feelings kind of the same way? Were those kind of the questions that came up? Or,
What we had suggested to them is that they have some discussion with their neighbors prior to the notice going out. So these people weren't hearing about it for the first time with the notice.
Okay.
So that way then the Gertzes would have an opportunity to explain what it is, what it isn't, what to expect, and to have that. And they did follow through with that with some neighbors, I know they did.
okay.
And so that was one of our discussion items at the development review team meeting, was to have those conversations with their neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
We got sidetracked there, and I'm kind of lost. So we have a motion and a second? Did we approve it?
Yes.
For the
Yes.
plan? Okay,
Yeah.
very good. I'm
Yes.
sorry, jump track.
Thank
All right, very
Thank
good,
you.
Amy.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your help.
Thank you, Ms. Amy.
All right. Assessors report, Glenn, I guess it is your turn. Morning, Glenn.
Good morning, Glenn.
Today I have two applications for papers to bring before you. Both of them are concerning homesteads. One would be a mid-year homestead and the other is a full-year homestead. I would recommend approval.
On both of them, okay.
Correct.
So move.
Both together, gentlemen?
Yes.
Okay, got a motion from Commissioner Dyson. And a second. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Jelinski.
I think I've asked Glenn this question in the past, and I will ask it again, if not for myself, for everyone. Tell me about a tax abatement. Abatement. What are we voting on here?
This is an abatement on evaluation or classification of a property.
Okay, so what had happened?
Let's see, whether the property owners, new property owners, did not come in and apply for either a full-year homestead or the mid-year homestead. And for a mid-year homestead, they have until December 1st to actually own and occupy and also to December 15th to make the application for the mid-year homestead. And both the mid-year and full-year homestead have the exact same benefits.
Okay. Very good.
All right, gentlemen, other questions? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Is that it, Glenn?
That's all I have.
Jeepers.
Thank you,
Okay.
Angie.
Thank you,
Thank
Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn.
Those boxes were empty, by the way.
All right. Thanks, Glenn, have a
After
great
you
day.
got your hands on them, they became empty.
There you go, there you go. Public Works, Steve. Auditors, I apologize. I'm on the old.
Having a good day.
Steve was just a jumping.
All I have this morning, gentlemen, are the county warrants.
So moved.
Second.
All the taxes and credit cards and all that.
Commissioners, bills, everything? All right. Motion and a second. Further discussion, gentlemen. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
And I.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Steve.
Yep.
Hi, Steve.
Good morning.
Morning,
Mr.
Steve.
Chairman,
I had him get up
Deb.
twice.
Good morning, Steve.
Commissioners, everybody.
Morning.
We had included in your packet a resolution for your consideration, setting the priorities over the next 5 years for our bridge program, structures that we'll be working on. Basically, to qualify for us as a bridge and be eligible for outside funding, outside our own resources, the structure must be 10 feet at least in width or in length. So two 48-inch pipes, they have to be placed a distance of at least half of the diameter of that pipe. So two 48-inch pipes would be a minimum structure that would qualify for bridge funding. That could be bonding, it could be town bridge money, it could be county state aid regular money, or it could be wheelage tax, local money then also that we generate. These bridges that are listed here are come up through the inspections that we do annually on the structures within our county. There's 184 structures that qualify for those, under those terms and definitions of a bridge. And they range all the way from those two lines of 48-inch pipe all the way to the Bolus Royalton Mississippi River Bridge. That would be a biggest structure on our system. And so as these structures are looked at and they age and elements of them deteriorate, they go through a rating. Our bridge inspector puts that based on his training. Different numbers are associated with each of those elements, and eventually what's called a sufficiency rating is generated out of those inspections. In order for a bridge to be eligible for replacement, a sufficiency rating has to be at least less than 80. It also has to have at least one element of the structure that is rated a 4 or less out of a rating of 10. And so these structures, most of them have that currently as the criteria that got them on this resolution. Some of those, there are a few on the lower end that we anticipate will be coming into the system because their ratings will drop as time goes on. 5 years from now, as this moves up, they'll be in that position. And so what we're requesting is that the board would adopt this resolution. We submit it to MnDOT. It also helps in work that they do to try to obtain funding for the local bridge replacement program, town bridge replacement program, those other programs that the legislature fund.
Yep. I'd so move on that, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, further discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner
Steve,
Winter.
Yes, sir.
on the township ones, when they, obviously they're less than the rest of them, because you take Lakin or Swan, their local or state is 20,000, and that's participant of the township?
Yes, townships are a little bit handled a little bit differently. They're eligible for town bridge money, and under the town bridge account, the township's responsibility is $10,000 for the engineering work to prepare a structure for replacement, develop the plans, all the work that goes into that. And the other $10,000 is non-participating items such as removal of the existing structure, the approach grades. That is not included in what bonding money or town bridge money can be used for. And so that essentially is the maximum amount that a township would pay on a replacement structure.
All right.
And Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jelinski.
Steve, all these townships are aware of this too.
These structures that are listed here have agreements with the townships and are working, and they are aware of it and they're working towards the replacement.
Perfect. Thank you.
Other questions, gentlemen? I have one, Steve. The Cache 1 Elk River, is that right in Randall?
Yes, that's the one right north of, right as you come out of Randall.
Right as you go, okay. I think I made the comment, there's only one in my district, and the rest of the board assures me that District 1 has gotten a lot of the repair and money in the past, so it's time for everybody else, so I just had to say that. Anyways.
That's your battle.
Good job. Anyways, sounds good, looks good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Anything else, Steve?
I just wanted to update the board,
Are those deer targets up there on top? Or?
just a little bit of the outreach that we do as a department.
Cool.
We have two, we started this about 15 years ago.
That's yours.
We started this program about 15 years ago, a snowplow safety program, based on a curriculum that was developed by the local road research board. They developed a video, and it was on the basis of sometimes small or little kids building snow forts along the road or standing along the edge of the road thinking that the snow coming off a one-way plow is just light and fluffy and it's nice to get hit with that. And it doesn't quite work always that way.
Especially not today with that wet stuff, huh?
There's been over time, there's been some pretty serious accidents and some very near misses, even on our own system, that we have experienced. And so we have two operators that during the month of October go to all of the school districts within our county, and they do this presentation to the second graders, where they get to see the video. We provide them with a coloring book that kind of gives them some educational background in it, and then they get to get in the plow, get in the truck, see how big it is, and what we're out there with. And this was a couple of them from peers that had taken pictures of the kids when our guys were in there doing this training with them. So I wanted to let you know that we do a little bit of that outreach every year, and it works pretty good.
That's a great thing you guys do.
Wonderful.
That is wonderful, yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
Steve, this is huge.
Yeah.
This is absolutely huge.
Very well received, and it's going on 15 years that we've been doing it.
Good
So
stuff.
Fantastic.
it's a good deal.
Commissioner, how come you got deer on top of yours? They probably thought I was gonna shoot them, huh?
Here,
I got a plow.
It's
Where do you
all,
see deer?
it's all the same
Deer,
picture.
where's the deer?
I think you just maybe missed.
No, let me see yours, Commissioner.
You see deer on here?
What the heck's that? Oh, I see the.
That's what it looks like,
That's from
right?
here, it looks like a deer on top of it, doesn't it?
We know you're having a work meeting.
No, look, these are different pictures.
Sorry, not to me.
When does the season end?
Evidently
Soon, hopefully.
And I don't wanna hold this up any longer.
Yeah.
Deb, does that look like a deer on top of that truck?
Yes, it does.
I get what you're saying, yes. It is the same picture, however, that's in, oh, no, it's not.
Different picture.
It's the same picture.
It is not. He's not lying.
Thank you for clarifying.
Ours are the same.
Mr. Chair,
Ours are the
did
same
we need
size.
a roll call vote on that bridge thing? It says on here.
I think it's applying for it. Do we need a roll call?
Well, it says,
We're not spending any money.
No.
on our package, it just shows roll call vote. So that's why I'm asking.
Because we're not approving, we're
See no deer.
applying for it.
Right, we'll be applying for it, and whether we get it or not. I don't think the roll call is.
Then
is
you'll
a
come back
requirement.
again, then we gotta do
Yeah,
it.
once we get into the contract aspect of
Then
it,
we
then
do
you're
it.
into roll call.
Okay, it just shows on ours as a roll call vote.
Like,
So,
you mean
yeah,
this?
Yeah.
We do that all the time. That's listed on all resolutions, or often listed on, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a roll
Yeah,
call,
yeah.
we just
That's why I
identify
just wanna
who.
make sure we
Good
do it.
question.
Yeah, good question.
And Nicole has a very pointy pen if I don't ask for one when it's needed. So,
To give him back a deer on that figure.
There's the deer right there, that
all
white.
right, there we go. Different one though. All right, anything else, Steve?
Just in parting, I would like you to know that we have not pleased every single constituent in the district, all the commissioners, but we are trying.
Yes.
We were out at 3, pretty much full bore, 20 routes we have running, and they're out at 3 o'clock this morning, so I think things will be in pretty good shape here by the time they shut down, but there were some roads when people were going to work that weren't plowed yet, but that's how this works.
There's roads in the city that weren't plowed when I came here, so.
Steve, could you explain to me, are our guys on call all the time? They have their cell phones, is that how you get a hold of them? How do you guys talk back and forth on phones a lot in the trucks? Or is it scanner land?
Well, there's a combination of that. In terms of when a call-out occurs, our guys have to notify us, and there's only a certain number of them that can be off. And then we backfill those routes with intermittent operators. We have a roster of intermittent operators that are available then to fill in for our regular guys. We also have several routes that we use intermittent operators on just because we have more routes than regular guys. So there's 2 things happening there. We could have up to, under a normal circumstance, 3 of our regular guys off, plus 2 routes that are normally filled with intermittent operators, so we can have up to 5 intermittent operators. Unless someone is ill, then we pull in additional operators, intermittent operators, so that all our routes are covered. John Schwanka, the maintenance superintendent, he's monitored. We have access to very good meteorological data through MnDOT that's available to us. They're monitoring this thing right as it comes in. It's very good, pretty darn accurate. He makes a determination on when he's gonna call the guys in. He was up early this morning, and then he did that. He makes that call through numbers that our guys have given to him to make contact with them, and he makes those calls to bring them in. And then operations start off of that.
Mr. Chair, there's an excellent York County government show out on YouTube that you can watch about the process of snow plowing. And John talks a lot about that app that he uses on his cell phone about the weather. And that's constantly utilized in the technology that he has now in order to be able to determine when those trucks should go out. Again, not perfect, but it predicts within, minutes of what and when things should end and start. And it's incredible tool. I learned a lot when we were sitting there visiting about that in terms of the resources we have now and how we determine that process of going out. I mean, he's up in the middle of the night doing that, and then when to call people out and how long they can work, because we have defined in our contract, we want to make sure we're getting efficiencies, and we can't run them 24/7. We have to only run one shift per 20-hour period, so determining when that's going to be, it's not an easy task, but there's a lot of tools available now that have helped that, and he does a good job with trying to determine.
Did you hear Amy's comment?
Yeah, Amy's.
Did you hear about Amy's comment?
Yeah.
I didn't, but she told me about it.
Oh,
So
okay, her
just-
kids weren't happy.
Just another dissatisfied constituent.
That's what I told her.
Next to grind with
Steve,
that.
was today's snow one of those snows that if you didn't get it plowed, it would pack heavy and
Yeah,
hard to
it-
get off there? Because I know
it-
you mentioned temperature, you mentioned a lot of things when we were at a training with you.
You know, this one isn't nearly as bad. There's a lot of heat in the ground.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
temperatures are up at where the one-way still takes it off.
Yep.
What we really get into that is if you get a little bit of traffic and the temperatures drop a couple of degrees and that one-way can't take it off, and then it rides up on top, and
Yeah.
then you get the compaction.
And that's when you get calls.
That really, after, especially after a couple of days when it really gets packed on and gets polished up, then it gets pretty bad.
Yep, yep.
Also, if you do see the YouTube video, you will see the latest intermittent operator that we brought on right at the end.
Okay, Commissioner Zelinski.
So you have to watch it for that
Mr. Chair,
purpose.
Steve, I guess I have a question. Avi, you just said that all of our operators are not full-time employees with Morrison County.
Yes.
So in the event that we need somebody and we don't have anybody, you have a whole history of individuals to contact?
We are allowed, what we have is a memorandum of understanding where we can have a list of 15 outside operators that we can contact to bring in if we have routes that are not filled, yes.
There's been a number of steps that we've taken throughout the years to clarify that with the bargaining unit, with the labored staff, or
Excellent.
the contracted staff. And so a number of different things have occurred throughout the process. Steve has done a good job of finding the best balance we can, working with the staff and working with the bargaining unit to really, comply with what we need to do with public employment laws, but yet develop an arrangement with the staff that really allows for a good, relatively, inexpensive or efficient way to deal with this business. So I think he's done an excellent job with that. But it was, you just can't, you gotta work with the bargaining units to be able to make that work. We
Outstanding.
have.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Anything else, gentlemen? All right, thanks, Steve.
Thanks very much.
Have a good day. And administrators report?
Mr. Chair,
I'm just
sorry.
wondering, why, Nicole's, are you waiting to?
I'm just here to support
Okay,
Deb.
okay,
if
Deb,
she
I
needs
just didn't
anything
know.
on part
Okay,
of
go
her
ahead, Deb.
report.
Okay.
all right. Mr. Chair, I have a few items. One is to consider reappointing Andrea Lauer to the Rural Development Finance Authority Committee for a second term of 3 years, and that will end 12/31 of 18.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second, further discussion. Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. We will let Ms. Lauer know. The next is to approve a revised cell phone policy. The change that we're proposing at this point in time was a change that was discussed during the latest bargaining process, the labor union contract. It really is about that intermittent use, that $10 per month stipend that we identify. I think Steve kind of highlighted a question that was asked about the thought behind that when this was put together was really about the fact that it was an emergency only. We needed to be able to contact folks, or when we send them out in the field, we want to make sure that they have the ability to be able to call for emergency purposes, and it's appropriate to compensate folks and reimburse them the expense that would be identified with that. We send people out all by themselves into homes of folks around the county all the time. We send people out on the roads to find things and do different things and whatnot. And so it's very common practice to be able to have a stipend system that you offer for cell phone use. And what we determined and what the primary use was for those folks out in Public Works, actually, when we were talking with them, that it went from just emergency only to really more intermittent, to more frequent. We have a extensive radio system when they're in their trucks. They're not always in their trucks. In the summertime, they're out curbing or they're doing different things and different projects that they're on. They may be taking a break from this or that, and so it's not always available. As technology changes, our jobs have changed, and this is one where we noticed that it was reasonable. The supervisors, the management staff said, yeah, we do use it more than just an intermittent, or more than just an emergency use only. And so with that, we're proposing a change in that low-end reimbursement level.
Mr. Chair, I'll move on this one.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second, further discussion.
Question,
Mike?
that went from 5 to 10.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
5 to 10.
Okay, 5 to 10.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right. The next I have is to consider the approval of the resolution to petition the Central Minnesota Community Corrections Joint Powers Board to terminate the agreement. We have spoke about this a number of times, and let me reiterate if you allow. We are for delivering correction services, we're a member of a joint powers organization with Crow Wing County, Aiken County, Morrison County. It was developed back in the 70s, modified back in the 90s when Aiken joined. And last month only, it seems like a while ago, last month, Crow Wing County voted to withdraw. There's a component within that joint powers agreement that they exercised, which is they can withdraw from that. We're notified of that, and we've talked about what do we do moving forward. And Nicole and myself and some of the other administrators and correction supervisors in those counties talked a lot about what makes sense to do. We don't have all the answers of what we need to do moving forward, but one thing that we all agreed upon is that this joint powers agreement, or like I like to say, the house that was built to function or to provide the functionality for this community corrections, was built for three. We don't need this same house anymore. It doesn't work because Crow Wing isn't going to be a part of it. And so another component within that joint powers agreement identifies the process we need to go through to terminate that, to dissolve this organization, and then move forward from there. And so that's what this resolution does. It petitions the joint powers board to consider dissolution of CMCC as it exists, due to the fact that Crow Wing County voted to exercise their right and withdraw from that organization.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner
Question for
Johnson.
Nicole, or, well, Deb also. Is Aiken County's doing the same thing, am I right?
I don't know that they're petitioning,
Okay,
but regardless, we've
okay,
talked about
sure.
it and they understand and
Yep.
are supportive
Okay,
of this.
I would
and
make that motion.
There's a motion on the floor and a second. All right, and.
I have a comment.
Commissioner.
It seems like Crow Wing is, correct me if I'm wrong, they're delegating when they want to get out. Why can't we say, you know what, we want to terminate it January 1st of 2016, rather than let's help Crow Wing because they can't get their ducks in a row or something like that. What?
Well, is there something in the joint powers?
Well, it says it in the joint
It
powers.
says
I
30
think.
days.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
30.
that's more than 30 days.
Well,
That's-
Mr. Chair, it isn't that easy to dissolve an organization that's existed for decades. So I don't know that I would recommend, or Nicole, well, you can speak for yourself, would recommend we do it any earlier than that, because it's already going to be enough of a task to get this accomplished within 6 months. So it seemed reasonable, again, and we're a member of that. They're not withdrawing until January of 2016. So we need a house to live in until then.
July 1.
July of 16, so we need a house to live in until then. So my recommendation, and when we discussed it, it really would be July of 2016 to terminate the organization in conjunction with that withdrawal.
Nicole, you were gonna say?
I would agree with Deb, and there are several steps to being able to be, whether it's our own Community Corrections Act county, we have to have a comprehensive plan approved by the Department of Corrections, and which is the trigger for our funding. So if we were to make this motion and say, that's it, January 1st, we're out, there isn't time to get all those steps in place. We would jeopardize funding at that point.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes,
guess
Commissioner Jelinski.
I would thank Crow Wing County for extending that period, as opposed to just dropping the hammer down and saying,
We're gone
January
30.
1st, we're done.
Well, the joint powers defined when they could do that. The joint powers had articles that you can't just do that because of it'd be to the detriment of everybody involved, so, yeah.
Exactly.
Commissioner Wilson.
Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong, and Deb, now, we're dissolving this, the reason we're doing this, because Crow Wing County wanted out. If Crow Wing County went out and we didn't dissolve this, it would be hard to figure out who's gonna pay for finances on different programs, whereas here now, it's like a divorce. You're splitting everything up so everybody gets created equally, and then we dissolve them, we start up another one or do whatever we're gonna do. That's kind of the purpose of this, right?
Kind of, yep.
So that way, if one would pull out and the other two would stay, it would be a little more difficult to determine who's money-wise, you know what I mean?
We'd have to
Responsible for
rework
that,
it, because
yeah.
it doesn't make sense. Again, the house was built for these very three specific tenants, and having one move out, you don't build the same house. The house doesn't work anymore.
Commissioner Johnson.
One more question, Mr. Chair. Then our next step after this one, if this passes, our next step is to do it at joint powers.
That is correct.
Okay, on the middle of December, whatever.
December 16th.
It needs to
Okay.
go to the joint powers, and then it needs to come back to each
Yep.
individual county to be able to ratify that motion or that,
Yep.
that,
All right.
that action item. And then really moving forward from there, we
Right.
have a lot of work to do to bring information to you about what it is we want to do moving forward.
I'd just like to thank Nicole for all the work that she's put
Yep.
in. There's been a lot of work involved in the last year almost on this project, so.
The last, since,
Nicole
yeah,
does
6
a
months
good
or
job
something,
all
for
the
sure.
time.
Yep.
We're lucky to have her, we're lucky to have the staff down there, so I am completely confident Morrison County
Yeah.
will move forward really, you know, in a better place. I think we will be. We have a great staff, we've got a great leader, I
Yep.
have no doubt we will move
That's,
forward
that's
with great
not
service.
saying, Mr. Chair, that when that joint powers agreement was put together with community corrections, that there wasn't a need at that point in time, because there definitely was.
Absolutely.
And like anything else, technology, whatever, has moved this into a new phase, if you will.
Other comments, gentlemen? Have a motion and a second on the floor. Further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a wonderful day.
Thank you. I like coming to the board. I get compliments.
There you go.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. You can come anytime you want to, you know that.
Administrators report more, moving on.
Just a couple of things. We have AMC next week for that conference. I forwarded you the Region 5 Summit if you want to go, if you want to let Nicole know. That's next Thursday night up in Staples. Let her know. This Thursday night, we have our Truth and Taxation meeting. I forwarded you the proposed packet. You need to let me know if you want something changed with that or you want to see more information in that. It's a typical presentation about our budget, what we've done. I think we've got a good story to tell this year because the work we've done in Budget Committee really has reduced that preliminary levy. And I think you as a board have done an excellent job of directing and looking at that and really making sure that the final levy that we impose is justified and reasonable and appropriate for the year moving forward. So
It's in the
thank you for
boardroom,
that.
right?
Yes, Commissioner
What?
Winter.
Right here in the boardroom.
Yes.
Do we not have, I have like a, parentheses, public, we have something else going on?
At
too?
the same time, we have a public hearing for
There
the
we go.
fee schedule, which is part of the budget
Yeah.
process and part of what we use to determine what that final levy is.
Other questions on that, gentlemen? Deb, anything else?
No.
All right, schedules, Commissioner Winter.
You always get
What are the dates?
Don't always get you first, I got
December
Commissioner
7th
Zelinski.
until December 18th,
Good,
From
please.
what dates were they, please?
Thanks, Brian.
7th to the
Have a good day.
18th.
Yep,
The 7th to
Brian?
the 18th?
yes, please.
Okay, starting on Monday, we'll be at the AMC conference in St. Cloud, Monday and Tuesday.
Coming back for the township meeting? Little Falls, oh, I'm sorry, Monday night.
And then we also have I have a township meeting at 5:30.
6, I thought it was 6:30.
No, I got 5:30 down, so.
What day?
That's Monday also the 7th, so I'll be coming back to that.
And that's the Little Falls
Little
Township?
Falls Township.
Probably what time you gotta leave St. Cloud. 5:30.
So, yeah, so I'll make it. So again, Tuesday the 8th will be at AMC. What the heck? I gotta extend, oh, that's at the AMC, okay. Comp plan on Thursday the 10th. And here in room 1 from 6 to 8.
And we saw that, right?
That one, you can bring that one up.
No. That's the same time? Region 5? Same night, same time, I don't know which one you guys are going to.
Then on the 15th, I have a board meeting at 9. There's a holiday gathering here at 11:30 on Tuesday the 15th. And I have soil and water on the 17th at 9 on Thursday. And that's what I have right now.
Commissioner Wilson.
On the 9th, I've got a coalition meeting in Piers at 10:30, and then CHB with meeting at 1 o'clock.
CHB?
That's, just a minute here.
Community Health Board.
Yeah, Community Health Board,
Okay.
Yep, 1 to
And
3.
what time is that and where?
1 to 3
Where's that?
At Joint Powers.
at NJPA,
Yep,
Staples.
yep.
Then I've got hometown, on Thursday, I've got hometown planning at 6 o'clock.
Yep.
That's the comprehensive.
Comprehensive plan.
Okay. County Board, we did community development on the 15th at 12:15.
Yep.
Community corrections on the 16th at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Excuse me a second there,
No,
Mike.
no.
And then at 10 o'clock, it's 9, and then Joint Powers is at 10 for everybody
Oh, okay.
on the 16th. I
And
just wanted
that's-
to add that.
And that's gonna be where?
You know, we don't have I don't think they had, Nicole, I don't think it could be at the library, or in
So
Coleman County.
correct, that's corrections, joint powers.
Correction,
At what
joint
time?
powers at 10 o'clock for the Joint Powers Board.
Great.
We got an executive board
That's
at
for everybody
9.
though.
Right, that's.
Yes,
all- that's
and
all.
I don't
All
know
of
where
us
it's
at 10.
at right now.
Mr.
With
Chair,
no-
do you want me to attend that? Are you okay with that, given
I-
the request that we have?
I would-
You could,
you could
don't
sure
have
could.
to.
You.
No,
I
no,
mean,
it would be
if you
good.
do
I
or
think
think
it'd be
about
good.
it, let me
Whatever.
know. I'll put
I
it on my
think-
calendar
Yeah.
now, but if you think it's not necessary, let me know. But otherwise, that way, with the
Yeah.
thought
Let's
process, we
say you probably need to be because of all that's going on, Deb. I think
Okay.
it would be helpful.
And then on the 17th, TCC meeting at 5 o'clock. And I think that's it. right?
Commissioner Winchell, what did you have? You said you missed one? or you-
Yeah, TCC.
Okay, TCC. Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
Okay, we got the AMC, 7th and 8th. Do we have to add the South Country thing on Sunday, or?
Well, that's
There's
right
a
after
South
meeting.
Country,
Yeah.
That's on the
On the
6th.
6th, yeah, that's
Yeah.
on dinner.
That's,
yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Public health was, let's see. I have RDFA on Monday, the 14th at 5 PM.
RDFA,
RDFA
What's
at
that stand for?
Community Rural Development Finance Authority.
and what time is that at?
And let's see, Kevin is on that too.
That's it.
That's at 5 o'clock at
On the
Community
14th,
Development.
yep,
Yep. And then I have, at 7 o'clock that evening, I have Yellow Ribbon at the American Legion in town here,
On the 14th?
14th.
7:30?
And then we got Community Development and Board Corrections. I have a Region 5 meeting at, I think it's 6 o'clock at LeBlanc Game Farm on the 17th of December. Region 5, that's it.
Commissioner
What
Jelinski.
time is that at? 5?
I think it's 5:30. I think it's 5:30.
At the LeBlanc Farm?
Yep, at Race Creek, whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Is there a department head on Wednesday,
There
the
is.
9th,
At 8:30.
at 8:30? On the 10th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'll be in Douglas County at a Next Generation 911 meeting. And I'm planning on attending that elected official summit at NJPA in Staples on the 10th.
On the 10th?
And that, okay, that's the Region 5?
Yeah. On
That's
the
what I was
11th,
talking
at 10 o'clock in the morning, there's a RAC meeting, an Armor RAC meeting in Benton County. I don't know where yet.
And that's on Friday?
That's on Friday, the 11th.
Okay.
I'm sorry. On the 14th, I'll be talking to 4 different classes at the Little Falls Community High School. And at 3:30 that afternoon, I'll be attending a Piers Mock car crash planning meeting.
And what day is that on?
That's on the 14th,
At what time, I'm sorry?
3:30 in the afternoon.
Okay.
On the 16th, the community corrections, is it important that this entire board is there? I'm supposed to chair 2 meetings in St. Cloud that day. So
I would say no.
I'm thinking I can be excused from that.
We're-
So
yeah.
on the 16th, I've got Armor at 11 o'clock, an executive committee meeting. And at 1 o'clock, an emergency services board meeting. Same day, at 5 o'clock, I've got a Hands of Hope meeting in Todd County. On the 17th, I'm pretty sure that I have this right, that the State Emergency Services Board meets in Arden Hills. At 7:30 that night, there should be an Egg Society meeting. I don't know that anybody cares, but I should be playing at Herbie's Bar on Friday the 18th.
You're playing?
We're doing that pre-Christmas thing, so
On the 18th?
Like,
I'm back,
Wow.
I'm back.
well, that might be.
I'm gonna write Herbie's on
Herbie's.
my
Yeah.
Herbies, that brings
I
back
just
some
might want
memories.
Also gonna be in Randall on the 19th, just so you know,
Holy
Really?
buckets, he's got a tour.
At the VF?
at the liquor store.
At the liquor store? Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
One correction, I just got on the 17th, I've got a Camp Ripley Advisory Committee that just came in not long, a few minutes ago, Camp Ripley advisory at 11 o'clock to 11 to 1, 1100 to 1300, and then a Valhalla social afterwards. That's on the 17th, but like I say, I just got it.
All right, gentlemen, are we good? All right. The 7th, you said, AMC St. Cloud, Little Falls Township meeting possibly that evening. AMC on Tuesday the 8th. Public Health Advisory, I think that's on the 9th, isn't it, Deb? Do you know at 5:30 or 5 o'clock?
That's what I have down.
That's the 9th at 5, Public Health Advisory? Okay.
And it's in meeting room 1, right?
Is that where we're having it this year? It's usually in the library. Oh, that's fine. No, that's fine, Deb, that's fine. And then, I haven't decided on the Region 5 or the comp plan yet for the 10th at 6 o'clock. So I just, let's see here, Monday the 14th at 5 o'clock, Community Development. And let's see here, and kind of a dilemma, County Board at 9 o'clock on the 15th, and 11:30 and 12:30 the luncheon, but then there's Sentinel Landscapes out at Camp Ripley from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, so I'll be here for the board meeting and probably lunch too, so. And then,
This one just came, Senator
let's
Gazilka.
see here, Lakewood,
See who else got it.
let's see, Airport Commission on the 17th at 12 o'clock, and the Mississippi Headwaters Board at 10 o'clock on Friday the 18th in Walker at the courthouse.
Randy, do you have Great River Regional Library on the 15th?
You know what, they haven't sent me anything yet, so I'm
Okay.
assuming we would, but I haven't gotten a notice on it yet, so.
Okay.
And I saw your article. Good job,
There you go.
good job.
Yeah, just to let everybody know, I think I sent you all an email. We got out of, well,
For now.
the Sartell Library has been turned down, so now we move on.
I would so move for adjournment if we're at that point.
Oh, I was going to mention too, Randy and Mike, that we are looking to schedule a facilities committee meeting the afternoon of the 5th. It's just for those two. I can send an email also, and that's why I did. January
Oh, January.
of 2016, is it?
No.
My
Okay.
calendar only goes to the
He's in
4th.
December.
Should be a Tuesday.
It would be a Tuesday, that same day,
All right.
and
I
board
can't
meeting
go
is there.
because my calendar's only good till the 3rd.
Yep, all right.
Need another paper.
Yeah, we have Board of Adjustments at 7 tonight. Right?
We do, tonight at 7.
And they're having a going away party
For
for.
Charlie
Charlie.
and Claude.
Charlie
And
and
Claude.
Claude.
Commissioner Johnson made a motion to adjourn,
I'll second.
and now I have a second. Further discussion? You heard that, all those in favor?